Republicans are about to bring back the auto loan interest deduction into the tax code, an idea that died off nearly 40 years ago. And I find it really interesting. This is not getting a lot of press. There's only been a few articles around that I've actually accidentally stumbled on. So let's talk about it today, what it means, why they might be doing it, and of course, what I think about it. Welcome back to All Cars Reacts to the news. My name is John, and what we're talking about here is that you've probably heard in the news that the big, beautiful bill is moving through Congress, and that is going to be a restructuring of the tax code with some other things, including removing the EV credit. That's worth mentioning at the beginning too. But another part of it that's only gotten a little tiny bit of press. I saw it on Automotive News, and then I had to go search for it to find it on the Detroit Free Press, and that is an auto loan interest deduction. And so this actually was an idea that we used to have back in the 70s and 80s. I don't know when it started, and I don't know what party originally brought it about, but I do know in the 80s, the Republican Reagan years, they restructured the tax code in 1986, substantially simplifying it. And they did away with it. And they kept the mortgage interest, but they did away with auto interest. I think also you used to be able to write off the interest on credit cards and things like that. They did away with all that. And now they're bringing it back. And we have to say up front, this is not a done deal. This is not written in stone. It has not been passed yet. And there's other representatives who have their own plans, who've proposed things which are a little different than what's here. But out of the Ways and Means Committee, the one big beautiful bill, they came out with it. If we look at it here on the screen, down at the bottom here, they actually have no tax on car loan interest. So let's scroll down to page 13 real quick. Zoom in and read what it says. And so what it says is provision creates an above-the-line deduction of up to $10,000 for qualified passenger loan interest on a given taxable year. Let's break that down. So when you do your taxes, you have your income, and then you have reductions to your taxable income, and then you have your deductions, your itemized deductions or your standard deduction, and most people take the standard deduction. What's nice is this is not itemized in. This is taken before you get to the standard deduction, so it applies essentially to everyone. And they do phase out when your gross income exceeds $100,000 for singles or $200,000 for couples, which means that by about $149,000, about $249,000, you don't get any interest deduction. But there's only 4 requirements here. It has to be a passenger vehicle, which is manufactured for public streets, roads, and highways, has at least 2 wheels, is a car, minivan, van, sport utility, pickup, or motorcycle. So this does include RVs, and the final assembly of which occurs in the U.S. For the purposes of the deduction, an applicable passenger vehicle also includes all-terrain vehicles and RVs, with the final assembly occurring in the U.S. And it's allowed, weird they spell this out, only from 2025 through 2028. Oh, look, only the years Trump is president. Very interesting. So they're having it phase out depending on what happens in the next election. What doesn't say here is that it's new vehicles. So there's going to be some modifications to this, I believe very firmly. There's another representative who proposed something kind of similar that was only for $2,500 in deductions. I think I read a third one that was $10,000 total over like a 4 or 5 year loan payback period, things like that. But the idea is if you go and buy a car, you are going to be paying interest, and that interest tends to decrease over the years, and that interest should be deductible. But it's not a straight answer. It's not that if you spend interest, you get that back automatically. The way it works is a little bit different than that. So let's take a look at a couple of things real quick. First off, the average loan period is a little over 60 months right now. And what is the APR for new cars that people are paying around the United States? Well, the handy little Edmunds.com depends. You know, here's 8%, there's 5s, so everything seems to be in the 7% range. So for comparison, let's go over here to this amortization table. Most people finance approximately $42,000 for, let's say, a little over 5 years. Let's say 5 years, and let's say they do 7% interest. Now, your mileage may vary depending on what your loan, car, interest rate, credit score is, things like that. But you can see right here that they're going to pay, what is that number? $22,709. Let's say $2,710 because we can round up. Now, that is the number for the first year of ownership of that car, of paying that interest that you put it on your taxes. But that's not how much you get back. Because the next thing you have to do is look at what is your tax rate. So if you're buying a $40,000, $50,000 car, you're probably somewhere in the 22 or 24% tax bracket right here. That's a nice big gap. So you're probably somewhere in that range. So let's pull up the calculator, and you paid $2,710 in interest, but you're at the, let's say, 22% tax bracket. That means your total deduction will be $596.20. So you bought a $50,000 car, you put some money down, you financed it for 5 years, you paid $2,700 in interest, and you're going to get about $500, $600 back on your taxes. So why are they doing this? Well, they're canceling the EV credit, but you'll also notice that that one big beautiful bill does not address the powertrain. It only talks about being made in America. So the top level intent here is to help further push through tariffs, and this to help further push sales of American-made vehicles. If you're cynical, then the government is saying, we want the price of your car to go up by $1,500 to $2,000, $3,000, $4,000, and we're going to give you $500 back on your taxes. But they're trying to push the sales of American-made cars. Hard to argue against that. The second thing is they're not specifying the powertrain or the powering option, which means that you may lose your $7,500 tax credit, but you're getting that $2,700 back. Very similar, much, much less, but very similar, and still allows EVs to get credit from this. They're not cutting EVs out of it as long as they're made in America. What I find interesting is the party that wanted to simplify the tax credit, to simplify the tax code, who wanted to do away with all of these loopholes and increase the amount that comes to the government from lower taxes, is now adding it back in 40 years later. It just seems so wrong-headed to me from a political, philosophical point of view, but from the world we live in of wanting to boost American manufacturing, I understand why they're doing it. Is it going to work? Well, I would say that 40 years ago, people were taking this credit, and that's why they had to cancel it. So people were actually using it. So people will continue to use it, but I don't believe that anyone who wants to go buy, say, a $50,000 vehicle and who can afford the monthly payment is going to look at how much they're going to get back for the first year, because it will go down every year as you pay off your loan and your interest, the interest you're paying goes down. I don't think it's going to influence anybody to say, well, now's the time to buy a car and I better buy made in America. I don't think so. I mean, it's part of the puzzle, but I'm not sure that's going to move the needle in terms of actual sales. That being said, if I buy a car in the next 5 years, I'll probably try to keep it under that 2028 deadline that they're writing in here, and I'll certainly track this and see what happens to it and how it shows up in the final bill. But right now, it looks like that's where it's going, and it's got a lot of support behind it in Congress. We just need to have the House and the Senate reconcile their two bills and see what the final version says. But it looks like the auto loan tax deduction is returning, at least for a few years. Thanks for your time, guys. Appreciate you being here.